Hello, everyone. We are doing one of our interviews, which will be at Everyone In, Ability Fest, coming up on October 31st is the main day. But these interviews will be available after that. So today we have Barbara Lee, who is one of our members who's doing all the planning here. And Barbara has just a great wealth of background. She keeps me on my toes and she's a delight to work with. And she's interviewing Jeremy and Julie, who are a musical duet. And Jeremy plays the guitar, and Julie plays the ukulele. Ukulele. So make sure I pronounce it right here. So, all right. Well, we just have some questions that are going to be in the interview, but pretty much I'm just going to sit here and listen in and enjoy. So now it's the three of you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jory.
Hey, Jeremy and Julie. Thank you so much.
Barbara.
This is so fun. I'm so glad that you're going to be able to be part of this event.
Me too.
We're excited about it.
And it's so interesting because normally you don't work musically together. I mean, this is like unusual. So how did this all start?
Well, we got a gig on March 7th of this year. A mutual friend of ours who was actually a school teacher for our son invited us to perform for the Milwaukee County Historical Society for a special event they were hosting downtown. And we said, why not? And we just put together a song list and had, 200 hours of rehearsals and
No, it wasn't that many.
and by March 7th, we were raring to go. We had people dancing to our polkas and all kinds of good stuff. So,
Well, I totally look forward to seeing the performance. But I thought it'd be really fun to have this interview so people get to know you a little bit and kind of get the background for all this. So,
Okay.
Sure.
Jeremy, you have quite a background in music yourself. You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I studied jazz guitar at the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music for 3 years, and then I moved to New York City for a couple of years where I studied with Ted Dunbar and Rich Bucas, two fairly well-known jazz guitarists in the city. And I also studied with Barry Harris, who was a jazz pianist, and he had the Jazz Cultural Theater in New
My
York City.
fingers are itching.
So, and then, I returned to Milwaukee after a couple of years in New York, and then played around with a lot of different kinds of bands, wedding bands, bar bands, led some of my own ensembles, and recently started singing choral music in the past 10 years and studied to be a cantor for about a year and a half with a distance learning program out of Philadelphia called Olive Alliance for Jewish Renewal. So that's kind of my quick bio in music.
Okay, Julie, your turn.
Okay. Well, I've been performing since I was a little girl, mostly theater. And of course, I loved music. And in college, I became a tap dancer. So I kind of had the what is it called? You have to be a triple threat. So I did a lot of professional and local theater in the Milwaukee area. And when I think right after college, I auditioned for a little company called Friends Mime Theater.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I met Barbara and the puppets. Yes, and the puppets. And I learned mime. I remember the day you trained me. We were miming it down the hill. I remember. It was very fun. And one of the things that really stuck with me that you said about mime is don't bother people. just do your thing and people will be interested. And I've always done that. I became a professional clown as I was working with you in Milwaukee Public Theater, called I'm Violet the Clown. And I performed all over Milwaukee, Summerfest, Winterfest when it was happening, Lakefront Festival of the Arts, a lot of the other festivals. And I juggle, I spin plates, I do mime, and I twist balloons and other things. So I have a lot of fun doing Violet the Clown. Jeremy's accompanied me a couple of times with the guitar, and we've done music. But as far as the music part, about 4 years ago, I wasn't feeling well, and I found out, just to keep it short, I had fibromyalgia. So
Oh,
some of the things that I was able to do a lot of, like the tap dancing, and some of the performing, I had to stop. So that was heartbreaking.
yes, yes.
So I also had to leave my job because of it. And so I decided, as the ukulele was something I had always thought, it would be really fun to play a ukulele. I think I have the personality to play the ukulele. So I Jeremy bought an ukulele for me,
Wow.
and I started playing it like crazy. I took lessons, and now actually Jeremy's been my teacher, and a very good one at that. And I learned a lot. I'm still learning, but I love it, and I play it like as much as I can. It drives everybody crazy,
That's so
including the
cool.
pirate.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about, I know that you've been also working with children with autism. Um,
Yes.
how did you get into that, and what is it?
Um, how did I get into that? So I was working for Milwaukee Public Schools, and I was an assistant for special needs children. And this little boy came to us, and he just really didn't want to be there. He was 4. So he screamed a lot, and we couldn't, he was diagnosed with autism. I had no idea what autism was. So all of a sudden, he was mine, and I got to work with him all day to try to get him ready to go into the room with the other kids.
Wow.
So I went home and I Googled it, or whatever we had at the time, and I learned about it, and I called his mom and I said, "Hi, I'm I'm your son's teacher, and I'd like to know more about him." And I fell in love with him. He was such a special person, and still is, actually. I still keep in touch with him. And then I just started, thinking about it, and realizing that people who have special needs, and in particular for me it was autism, children and adults, really have a lot to give and a lot to say, and they just do it in a different way. And so I really worked. I thought that music and drama and dance were a really good resource for me with special needs kids, all special needs kids, but I started with the autism kids. And anyway, it evolved into a summer camp, and now it's an all year round camp. We have
Wow.
3 camps coming up next year. We're called the Superstars, and a lot of returning, a lot of new kids. Virtually, it seems to work as well, which kind of surprised me because it's a social camp. But the Autism Society has been a great support, and for a very long time, Barbara Lee was a great support with Milwaukee Public Theater. So it's evolved, and I love it, and I love working with that population of people. I've learned so much more from them, I think, than they have from me. So it's great. So I think we have some video of that too, that Jeremy sent you from the Autism Society.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll try to show that video as well. Excuse me. So, wow, there's so much that you both do. Can you tell us a little bit, since this is everyone in is an event that's for people of all abilities, of course, but we're also hoping that people with disabilities can kind of take heart and go, well, I can do some of that. And I think Superstars is a really good example, but also you yourself, Julie, with what you've been dealing with your issues, health issues. What role do you think the arts have played in terms of helping you deal with that?
Everything. They've brought me back from depression. They've you know the arts, that the gifts that I have to give, that I've learned from the arts, music, even dance, and storytelling, and all the circus skills I know, have kept me You know, I may not be able to do them right now as well as I used to. However, well, except for the ukulele.
Which
um,
you do much better than ever.
I'm the best I've ever been at that. But it just gives me hope. It gives me hope to keep fighting the illness and to keep going every day, especially during the pandemic, which pandemic and fibromyalgia combined
Oh,
is a bad situation. So
yes.
it gives me something to get up for in the morning. It gives me something to look forward to doing throughout the day. I love practicing with my husband. And he's taught me a lot about the music biz, so that's been very cool. um, and it's important.
Yeah.
It's important.
Well, I
Music.
noticed this little sign behind you that says laugh.
Yes, yes.
Is humor important in your life?
Humor is so important. Humor, jokes, just being, just lightening up. The puppets I have. I just, we just tell each other jokes. Don't tell anybody that though, because that sounds a little strange. Um, but we just have a lot of fun. Jeremy and I have a lot of fun together too. We try to keep it light. Our kids are involved with the arts. My son's career he's a circus person and he's making a living doing it.
Wow, amazing.
My daughter is a singer. She's brilliant. And she has a cabaret that she performs in Philadelphia. So, it's so important to have the arts.
And humor is a really important part of our work together. By the way, the name of our group is called Sweet Ginger Pie, and we named our group after our lovable and trusty and loyal dog Ginger. However, humor is we're just developing our shtick as a duo, and Julie I think is a big driver for that piece, but she's actually teaching me to lighten up a little bit.
Well, wait a minute. What about Jake the Pirate? Yeah. Jake the Pirate is
okay,
there.
So, yeah, and that's just a great example of what she does.
So it sounds like it's been a really wonderful synchronicity that you two are together. And Jeremy, you strike me as a little bit more serious person, kind of.
I come from a very serious family of serious musicians, and we all frown when we play. And so one of the things that Julie has taught me to do is to lighten up a little bit and have more fun with it. And I'm grateful to Julie for that, and we really do work well together in that regard. So,
well, I'm so glad that you're going to be part of us. We could go on forever, I know. But thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing your performance and then also the video of Superstars. And who knows what's next? I mean, Summerfest is around the corner. We hope to do that in September. So we could be live. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be wonderful.
Oh, yeah. I hope so. I love the audience. Yeah.
So thank you again. And
Thank you.
Barbara.
And I just want to close with a couple of comments here before we all sign off, because what you talked about is the power of humanity, the laughter, to be able to take what it is that we've gone through. And I always tell people, I mean, my whole world is working with people with chronic pain. And so I always tell them, you can either become bitter or better. And it's okay to become bitter, but don't stay there. You two are a delight. You are such a delight. And it is the hope.
I'm Mark Laufenberg, current president of Madison Spinal Cord Injury and Issues Incorporated. Here to give you a short video of our PowerPoint presentation to let you know a little bit what our organization is about. To the right is Madison SCI Incorporated's logo. To the left, our slogan, we plan, we go, we conquer. The second slide is our mission statement, which is to benefit and raise awareness of the community of people with spinal cord issues, disease, and related conditions, which would include multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, or any other affliction that produces the same issues as those with spinal cord injuries. A picture of two action track chairs. These are basically power wheelchairs with caterpillar tracks. They can go over a lot of terrain, very popular with hunters as they can go into the woods. Gentleman on the left is showing how the controls can be used to move the disabled person to a standing position in case he wants to shoot a rifle, use binoculars, whatever the case may be. A big part of Madison SCI is peer mentoring. This involves being mentors to people who are new to spinal cord injuries or another affliction such as diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. We answer any questions they may have and let them know a little bit about what to expect, what all is all entailed with their injury or affliction. And we hold training sessions in which an instructor comes from United Spinal or the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation to make us better mentors. More of the peer mentor training. Every year we host our annual summer picnic. Of course, we didn't in 2020 due to the coronavirus. But normally, it's a nice get-together that involves a lot of activities. Here is a list of some of them: peer mentoring, kayaking, fishing, hand cycling, tuning up wheelchairs. For people that are having some type of issue, there are technicians on hand to help them out. Learning about new products, row wheels, rewalk, a computer-controlled exoskeleton that allows paraplegics to learn to walk using the device. Mobility Works has handicap accessible vans on display. Coloplast New Motion. A big part of our chapter is our volunteers. Many of them are UW students and very important to us. They not only help us, but they learn about disabilities themselves to help them if they're going to become physical therapists or occupational therapists, kinesiology, any of those fields. You'll notice the people in this slide all have numbers on. A few years ago, we held a 5K run, walk, or roll. And it was a nice event that many members participated in. At one of our meetings, a young man who drives a race car visited us along with his race car. He was injured in a spinal cord related accident and can no longer use his legs. His race car has been adapted to having all hand controls operate the car. Picture of some recumbent hand cycles. And some more people on hand cycles. We are lucky in the Madison area. There are a lot of bike paths and trails, and they're well maintained. This device is called a dragonfly. It attaches to the front of a manual wheelchair. The lady in this picture is using her own wheelchair along with the dragonfly to propel herself forward and to steer. You'll notice the front wheels of her wheelchair are up off the floor. And that's to keep them, of course, from interfering with steering. Picture of a recumbent hand cyclist out on the trail. And of course, amputees are also able to ride the chairs and very popular with, the hand bikes, and it's also very popular with them. Madison holds an annual event called Ride the Drive. This is where people ride regular bikes, recumbent bikes, antique bikes, hand cycles, you name it. There are booths along the route. Madison SCI sponsors one, and we have adaptive hand cycles there for people to look over or try. A picture of a tent at the 5K run. Some hand cyclists posing in front of the Capitol building in Madison. You'll notice the bike on the right is actually a hand tricycle, or actually pedaled with the feet, but it is a tricycle for younger people who have suffered a disability. Another popular sport, adaptive kayaking. You'll notice the man in this picture has adaptive grips on his hands, which enable him to hold on to the oars and use them. This picture, apparently with a jet ski in the background, was meant to actually show the outriggers on an accessible kayak. They, of course, are to keep the kayak from turning over, which would be a bad situation for someone who is paralyzed. This device, wheeled into the water, is called a chariot. More of that coming up. The chariot sits at about the same height as wheelchairs or wheelchair seats. This allows much easier transport of people with paralysis. You'll notice the lady in the blue hat has now been transferred into the kayak. This picture shows the homemade device that holds up the front of the kayak. Merely steel tubing with a square tube hand brake or brace, and you can see it slips right on the front of the kayak and keeps the kayak level for a person who is disabled to enter it. You'll notice in this picture a man in a kayak with the chariot. The device on the front end has been taken off. And the young man is able to easily hold the front end of the kayak up with one arm. And rolling down toward the lake, a couple of volunteers is all you need. This is a trailer that we obtained through a grant from the Christopher and Dana Reeves Foundation. We only had one adaptable kayak at the time, but otherwise it's a pretty standard trailer for transporting kayaks. We work with a number of different groups in the Madison area, and one of them is the Madison West Kiwanis. Every year they sponsor a sit-ski trip to Durango, Colorado for 4 people who are disabled. It doesn't just include members from Madison SCI, but also members from the adaptive fitness program at the UW campus. Many Madison SCI members are in that program. On the left, you can see a person on a sit ski. If you look closely, you can notice the short pole in her hand that she uses for steering, and an able-bodied skier behind her with 2 leather cables to help guide her. On the right, another person in a sit ski, and apparently someone posing with a snowboard. The American Birkebeiner is an event in Hayward, Wisconsin, which is up toward the northern edge of Wisconsin. Skiers come there who are able-bodied and compete in a long event with very long trails. And recently, they added trails for sit skis. Adaptive water skiing, very similar to snow skiing, just with an adaptive water ski where the paralyzed person can sit on it and a couple of volunteers steady it and, you know, pull the water ski along. Another organization, the Brian Reich Paralysis Foundation, they sponsor an annual fashion show, which is about clothing for people in wheelchairs. One of our members participating in the fashion show, at the end of the show, the disabled person gets to keep the clothes. The Achilles Track Club is a popular bicycling club, and they now include adaptive hand bikes. A few years ago, Paralympic coach Steve Brown introduced some of our members to adaptive curling. Adaptive fishing, there is a group called Fishing with No Boundaries, a national group that allows disabled people to experience fishing. We have 2 lakes in Madison, and every year they provide pontoon boats to take people out fishing. They also have adaptable fish poles and even a device that can cast the line for you. 3 Gates of Middleton, a horseback riding organization, and They also have horseback riding for disabled people. This is a picture of a young lady trying out an action track chair on one of the Madison bike trails. The young man behind her in the wheelchair is a dealer for the action track chair. And that ends our presentation. Thank you very much for viewing.